Good morning, and thanks for joining us today. I'm Mary Nelson. Mike's enjoying a nice long weekend, but it's my pleasure to welcome guest chatters from The Drive on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio. Joe Quinn and Nick Handley, it's good to see you. I know your time right now is in demand since football season's here. But before we get to that, I want to talk about what is a big deal around here. Omaha's official home for Husker sports. What does it mean to fans?
Well, you know, it's obviously a new home for Nebraska football, volleyball, once we get into the winter, basketball and baseball. But AM 590 will be carrying all the Husker football games this year along with Z92, so you got some options. And, of course, along with that, Mary, AM 590 has a very, very big signal, so you're going to be able to hear the Huskers all the way into central Iowa, into western central Nebraska, so Kansas, South Dakota. So it's a big deal. So if you're on the road traveling, you'll still be able to hear the broadcast.
And a lot of fans are wondering, like, some of these frequently asked questions. What are you hearing about what's changing and what isn't?
The question we always get, Mary, is are you guys going to be doing the games? Are Joe and I going to be doing the games? And does anything change on the announcer side of it? And it doesn't. You're still going to have Greg Sharp. You're still going to have Matt Davis and Lane Grindle on the football call. Basketball's the same with Kent Pavelka and Matt Davison and Matt Coatney for women's basketball and John Baylor with volleyball. So everything's the same. You're hearing it on our signal. And as Joe mentioned, it's a great signal. And I think the other thing is people really enjoyed having all 3 hours of sports nightly, which follows our show on weeknights. So especially this time of the year, I think when the announcement was made, we were really excited knowing that once Joe and I go on the air at 2, we're going to have obviously the same kind of content we've always had with Nebraska football, with college football, and all the local teams. But then at 6 o'clock, you get more in-depth stuff with those guys as well. And then on the flip side with us, we get a lot more access to coaches, a lot more direct content than we've ever had. So it's such a great thing for our weekdays. And then just, you know, the broadcast itself, too, having baseball all year long and stuff like that that they haven't had typically.
Right. For them to have the platforms, to have the 3 hours now instead of 2, it's all huge. And then here on KMTV, we also have, of course, last night, a big night here. But we've also got a couple of programs that we want to encourage you to tune in for. The Nebraska Football Show, Inside Nebraska. Both of those shows follow Sports Sound Off on Sunday. So to the point about Nebraska, we've had a couple of injuries that are worth noting. Of course, a brand new coach in Mike Riley. What's on your radar as we head towards Saturday?
Well, I think you know, the injury situation will be an interesting one to follow, especially at the wide receiver spot. They've had some guys go down, but luckily it's a pretty deep spot for Nebraska, and it's just a position where they've got a lot of bodies too, which is helpful. Still some intrigue. We know that there's going to be a few guys suspended for the first game of the season, and as to who that is, we don't know yet. So I think there's some fan intrigue there. And then, of course, you know, the biggest thing, as you mentioned, Mary, is just, you know, new coach, new style, new offensive and defensive coordinators. So how is that all going to look? And unfortunately, or fortunately for Nebraska, depending on how you look at it, they're going to try and start it all, put it all together against BYU, which is not going to be a pushover game.
And that's on Saturday.
Yeah.
Are they, like, decent enough on defense, or is it more of an offensive issue?
I think that's going to be a very interesting matchup. This is probably the most intriguing matchup. You go all the way back to 2003 when Nebraska opened up against Oklahoma State. And Taysom Hill is a great quarterback for BYU. He's coming off a knee injury, though, and so it's not guaranteed to see what he'll be, if he'll be as effective as he was last year, but they've got a lot of good athletes, some good wide receivers. So this is going to be a real big test for the Nebraska defense. And, you know, as Joe mentioned, there are a lot of question marks with the defense as far as the linebacking position at depth. Great defensive line. Secondary seems to be solid. So I think there's a lot of excitement with the defense. And the belief early on anyway is that this defense is going to have to kind of carry as the offense sort of gets acclimated to this new system with new personnel and new coaching. But the non-conference portion of the schedule alone, having Miami and BYU in this schedule, you don't have these FCS, you know, cream cake teams anymore. This is going to be a big challenge for this group.
Well, the picture's changing completely anyway as the national title thing. I mean, that whole it's all shifting now, and we're starting to see that trickle down to the first game of the season. For you this week, what do you have cooking? Any guests you're excited to welcome?
You know what? We actually are going to be live in Lincoln every single day. The Husker Sports Network folks are putting us up at some different venues. So today we're at the soccer complex they just built. Going to be at the Devaney Center talking volleyball tomorrow, Memorial Stadium on Wednesday. And then on Friday, we're actually doing a tailgate show from a restaurant downtown Omaha. So all of the details, of course, you can find on our website there, which you see on the screen.
Cool. The Drive airs weekdays on AM 590, Omaha's Omaha's ESPN Radio from 2 to 6 o'clock. So we were fortunate the guys could come in, start their workday a little bit early today to join us on the Morning Blend to talk this awesome partnership. And of course, Husker football is here.
It is here. Absolutely.
Bring it on.
Game week. Game week.
We're all pumped. Thank you, Joe. Nick, it's great to have you.
Thanks,
Thank
Mary.
you.